We're jumping right in today with quite a developing situation in the entertainment world. We're looking at the fallout from Cassie's recent court testimony about Sean Diddy Combs, and specifically how rapper Boosie Badazz has reacted very publicly.
Yeah, that's right. Our main source here is an article from the Express Tribune, published just yesterday, May 19th. And it really focuses on Boosie Badazz hitting social media with some pretty pointed things to say about Cassie and her husband, Alex Fine, after she testified.
So the plan for this deep dive is to really get into what Boosie is claiming, put that into the context of, Cassie's actual allegations in court, and then look at the immediate public reaction. And we're sticking just to what this article reports.
Okay.
All right, so let's start there. What exactly did Boosie Badazz say? What did he post?
Well, according to the article, he went straight to X, what used to be Twitter, and didn't really mince words. He posted, this is a direct quote, "I think Cassie and her husband masterminded this takedown of Diddy and his money."
Wow. Okay, masterminded. That's a strong term. Very direct, very accusatory right from the start.
Extremely. It's presented as, like, a statement of fact almost, not just an opinion.
And the article says he didn't just leave it at that one tweet, did he? There was more.
No, he followed up. He elaborated on this theory. The article says he suggested that Alex Fine, Cassie's husband, had been sort of pushing her, encouraging her to go after Diddy for years.
Okay, so painting a picture of long-term influence there.
Yeah, and then he apparently added this layer about motive. He mentioned their alleged financial situation, saying something like, "Then as a couple y'all become broke."
The money angle.
Exactly. And then connected that to the timing, saying, "Now the plot becomes realer by the month." And he capped it off with this comment, "A woman scorned is a dangerous evil, hashtag, yeah, he said it."
Ooh, okay. Women scorned. That phrase itself carries a lot of weight, a lot of historical baggage. So he's really building a narrative here. Long-term plan, financial desperation, and, well, scorn.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He's laying out a specific, and you could say quite cynical interpretation of events. It definitely casts Cassie's actions in a particular light.
And it's important, I think, to remember the timing. This is coming directly after she gave testimony in a very public legal case.
Right, which brings us to the context. Why is Boosie saying this now? It's directly tied to Cassie's appearance in court the week before.
And what did the article say about that testimony itself? What does she actually allege?
The article reminds us it wasn't just a brief statement. It says she gave detailed allegations of abuse that she claims happened over the course of her long relationship with Diddy.
Detailed allegations. And the nature of those allegations, did the article specify?
It did. It mentioned claims of sexual assault, emotional manipulation, and also physical violence. So we're talking about extremely serious accusations made under oath.
Okay, so very serious claims in court, and then almost immediately you have Boosie Badazz publicly pushing back, essentially defending Diddy by attacking her credibility and motives.
That's the dynamic the article presents, yes. It definitely makes you think about how these public comments, especially from other celebrities, might intersect with, ongoing legal matters.
Absolutely. So how did people react to Boosie's statements? What does the Express Tribune report about the public response?
It says the reaction was swift. And interestingly, it seems the immediate tide went against Boosie's claims. The article states, many are voicing support for Cassie.
So immediate support for Cassie, despite Boosie's attempt to frame her negatively.
That's what the article indicates, yeah. That initial wave, at least, was supportive of her.
Any idea from the article why that might be? Does it offer any reasons?
It doesn't speculate too much on the why, but it does provide a couple of potentially relevant pieces of information. First, it includes a statement from Cassie's attorney.
Okay, what did the attorney say?
Well, the statement conveyed Cassie's hope that her testimony might help other survivors. She apparently said, "I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors." That kind of message often resonates.
Sure, framing it as potentially empowering others.
Right. And the article also makes a point of mentioning quite a significant personal detail, that Cassie is currently in her third trimester of pregnancy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a very human element that definitely could, influence how people perceive the situation and perhaps increase empathy towards her.
It certainly adds another dimension to the whole thing, doesn't it?
It does. Now, the article doesn't just focus on this specific exchange, right? It also touches on the broader context of Diddy's legal situation.
Yes, it gives that wider view. It acknowledges that Diddy's trial is, quote, unfolding. And crucially, it notes that overall public reaction to the entire situation remains deeply divided.
Okay, so that's important. While there might be this specific surge of support for Cassie after her testimony and in response to Boosie, the bigger picture regarding Diddy himself is apparently much more mixed or fractured.
Exactly. The article paints a picture of, like, layers of reaction, specific support here, but a more complex division overall as the legal process continues.
Got it. And, just for context, the article apparently also mentioned a few other unrelated entertainment news bits. Things like Practical Magic 2 or Smokey Robinson.
Yeah, just brief mentions, things like that. The Smokey Robinson lawsuit, YNW Melly's situation. It feels like the article included those just to kind of place this Boosie Cassie Diddy story within the, the normal churn of the entertainment news cycle.
Right, to show it's one major story happening alongside others, not in a vacuum.
Precisely. It helps contextualize it without going deep into those other topics.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together. We've got Boosie Badazz making these very strong accusations on social media, basically calling it a conspiracy, a masterminded plan by Cassie and her husband, maybe driven by money.
Right. And that's landing just after Cassie has been in court delivering detailed, serious testimony alleging long-term abuse by Diddy, including sexual assault and physical violence.
And the immediate public reaction reported in this article is largely one of support for Cassie, despite Boosie's claims. Although the wider context around Diddy's legal battle shows public opinion is still pretty divided overall.
That's the core tension right there.
Yeah.
You have Boosie's narrative clashing pretty directly with Cassie's testimony, and, at least according to this source, the initial public sentiment following that testimony.
It really highlights how these things play out in public, especially with social media amplifying everything so quickly.
Definitely. It shows how different narratives can form and collide almost instantly.
It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? When public figures weigh in like this on X or wherever regarding really sensitive legal situations, what kind of impact does that have? Even without presenting, hard evidence, how much can it sway public perception or even potentially affect the atmosphere around the legal proceedings themselves?
That's a heavy question. The influence is undeniable, but measuring its precise effect is, well, incredibly difficult.
Yeah, something complex for all of us to consider, for sure. Thanks for unpacking the specific angle with us today.